What's good? It's your boy Maestro, and you're watching Delay a Game Hoops.
What's going on? It's Delaybaro back with another episode of Who Got the Juice Now, my podcast where I talk about all the trending players and teams that have caught my eye recently around the NBA. The first segment of this new episode, we're going to talk about a team that's really been firing on all cylinders over the last few weeks. And it's a team that got a lot of criticism for their huge blockbuster deal in acquiring James Harden back in November. But I don't know, right now, the LA Clippers look like real contenders.
Yo, you got the juice now, man.
Anytime you have Kawhi and Paul George in your team, you're looking to win it all and win now. You're in that mode. The Clippers have been in win now mode, it seems like, for the last, I would say 10 plus years in a way, going from the Lob City era to the Kawhi and Paul George era. They've been trying to capture their first championship for a long time. And, they've had the strategy of kind of stacking the deck over the last couple of years, especially with Kawhi and Paul George, trying to surround them with the best talent. But it hasn't really been the right complementary talent. They've also had devastating injuries to either one of them, so that's been the biggest factor. But they haven't had a lot of continuity because of the injuries. But now that they're starting to gel with James Harden, this team is a whole different team that has to be looked at as a contender in the Western Conference. I mean, if you just look at what they're doing over the last couple of weeks, they're on an 8-game winning streak. They've raised their record to 16-10. They're slowly climbing up in the West. Before that, they're outside the play-in picture. James Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard are all playing with each other right now. There's a stat that went out that James Harden has already passed, I think it's like 18 or 19 games. He's already passed his entire total that he had with when he was playing with the Nets with Kyrie and KD. Like that big three, that trio only played about 17 games or so, and he's already passed out with the Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George. So I think continuity, durability is going to be a big thing for the Clippers all year. But if you look at the way they're playing, they are really devastating on both ends of the floor. And I think that's going to be the toughest part because they're figuring things out offensively right now. It's going to be so tough to stop them. But you forget that they're sixth in opponents' points per game. Like they're a really good defensive team. They have the third best point differential in the conference, even though they're the sixth best team right now. And that's because obviously their winning streak is propelling them to that status. But the Clippers are on pace to finish in the top 3 or 4 position if they keep it up, because not too many games separate. A lot of the teams in the Western Conference is so jam packed. James Harden is really getting into a groove and playing more like an alpha player, like that he was starting to do with the Sixers last year. Once he started to get his groove with Embiid, he started to put up a lot of huge numbers. And he was talking about the other day, like how he has made adjustments to his signature move, his step back. Like he's starting to make those a lot more often now. He's starting to be way more aggressive with his shot. He's somebody who, I don't care what anybody says, like he's always going to be underrated in a way as a playmaker because you don't really think pass first with James Harden, but he's already led the league in assists before. And he is a premier setup man who knows how to set up great talent. So he's doing a good job of getting Zubac some easy buckets. He's doing a good job of finding Paul George and getting Kawhi and those guys going early. And then he's been really aggressive with his shot. I love the way that he's being aggressive, taking a high volume of shots, but they're not bad shots because he's able to spread the wealth and he's picking his spots really well. That's probably the best way to put it. He's being really efficient in terms of his decision making and where he wants the ball to be distributed. And you see it trickle down to the rest of the roster. Kawhi has been extremely good this season. I think it's been underrated that he's been able to play, I think, almost every game, if not every game of the season. Availability is the biggest thing with Kawhi because you want him to be in that rhythm, especially once they go towards the playoffs. But the fact that they're building that chemistry with him, like I said, Paul George and James Harden right now, it's going to work dividends down the stretch of the season because the Clippers, like I said, because of all the injuries, they've always been looked at either as a dark horse or they didn't have enough continuity to, go far that year. But with Russell Westbrook spearheading that second unit, then you have James Harden doing his thing in the first unit, and then Paul George and Kawhi specifically playing, like an all-star superstar type of player. The Clippers have one of the scariest starting lineups in the league. And then you look down at their bench, there's not many breaks when you play against them. Russell Westbrook in that second unit, they try to get out and run. And that UCLA backcourt, Russell Westbrook and Norman Powell. Norman Powell is he's nice. You know what I mean? Like he's been somebody who, scored over 20 points a game in the league a couple times or gotten close, 19 point guy. And he does that off the bench. He does that as a starter. If you need him to fill in, he's somebody who can fill in the wing and make shots. Excellent transition, fearless going to the basket. Like he's the type of guy that you want as your sixth man or somebody who can come in and give your offensive punch. And the fact that Russell Westbrook is keeping up this type of pace or encouraging a faster pace, Norman Powell can get easier baskets. And they have a fun second lineup. Daniel Tice was a huge pickup for them. I love that signing for them. Tice was kind of an afterthought as a free agent because he didn't play at all in Indiana last year. I think he was hurt for a good part of it, but then they were prioritizing playing. Obviously, Miles Turner was a starter, but then they played Isaiah Jackson, who's a pretty decent backup development into one. Jalen Smith, another guy they're trying to develop. So Tice kind of just fell by the wayside. Even if he came back, that wasn't a situation where they were going to be winners anyway. So it made more sense for more of a contending team or a playoff caliber team like the Clippers to come scoop him up. But he's been a great backup for Zubac. And it's so funny because you forget they have Mason Plumlee, who's hurt right now. So once Plumlee gets back, it's just an embarrassment of riches for the Clippers at the 5 spot. And Tice is a true 5. Like, yeah, he can step out a little bit and shoot. He's not going to do that too often, but he's looking to roll to the basket. He's excellent at staying vertical on contests. He's not going to get a ton of blocks, but he's a good rim protector still because he does a great job of deterring and altering looks instead of getting a ton of blocks. But he's a smart player, and he's somebody that you really can pair with Russell Westbrook and have some positive things going because he's going to create space to the screens. He's going to create space and driving lanes for Westbrook and Powell. And the Clippers are just finding ways to integrate these lineups, and then obviously having Paul George, Kawhi play with them as well. So there's a lot of ways for them to go, for Coach Lue to go to and mix and match the lineup. They can go 10 deep. Those are the 8 main guys that play. It's obviously James Harden, Terrence Mann, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac. And then you have obviously Daniel Tice, sometimes Amir Coffey, but then you have Norman Powell, Russell Westbrook. Kobe Brown's getting integrated in the rotation a little bit, along with Bones Highland. It's another guy who, somebody's out, he's going to step in and do his thing. He's such a good scorer, such a creative player. They have a lot to like off of the bench. They have a lot more depth than you might think. And like I said, once they do get Plumlee back, they're going to have a lot of talent on that front line, which that's something they've, kind of been lacking. Even if they were to be healthy, that would be something that would be the next thing that you would look at. Okay, well, maybe they don't have the front line that is too polished enough to win, or maybe not enough depth to defend like certain players or certain guys that will be problems in the Western Conference, like, Nikola Jokic or Anthony Davis. But I love the way that they've addressed that this year. They've found other ways to, mix the lineup and find guys who can, contribute against the teams they're really gonna have to play down the stretch. It's funny for the Clippers, like I kind of alluded to them being in win now mode. They're definitely in win now mode, and they've been that way for a long time. But living in LA and being in LA for a long time, you kind of get the sense that the Clippers fans are just kind of waiting. I think everybody in the city is just kind of waiting for them to do something. They've gone through different eras, and they have like a lot of diehard fans now, especially got like a lot of people who carry over from the Lob City days. But people are kind of just waiting for them to win. And I think it's because it's been the same issue with their teams, with both renditions of their teams. It's just the fact that they've gotten hurt or just haven't been healthy at the worst times. And that's the weirdest part about it. I think people are just kind of a little bit jaded in terms of projecting the Clippers as title favorites. But anytime you look at the roster, barring injury, that's always been the word. Even if they didn't make the James Harden trade, barring injury, the Clippers are a title contender. They are that talented. They've been that way from the Chris Paul era to now. It's kind of tainted because they haven't had a chance to showcase what they can do in the playoffs because somebody's hurt at the wrong time. It was kind of the same thing with the Clippers when they had Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. It would be Paul a lot of times getting hurt in the playoffs or Blake Griffin not being available. So it's good that right now they're finally, knock on wood, they're finally healthy, and they're going to hopefully stay that way throughout the course of the season. But we really want to judge them. And this team, it's funny because, load management, I think, is brought up a lot more with this team than any others. But you haven't really seen that too much this year. And not only that, I think for them instead of load management, continuity. I've always been a proponent that the less you play, the less rhythm you're in. So you might be more susceptible to injuries anyway. That's not really a proven thing. It's not proven science, but it's a theory I have because being more in a rhythm and being used to just playing consistently is going to help you down the stretch. I don't think it's going to hurt you more than people think. Yeah, there's the risk of devastating injury anytime you step on the floor, but you can't be worried about that. You can't be fearful of that, as a coaching staff and organization, especially like LA, because, that's already happened to you. So if that happens again, there's nothing, you can't control that kind of stuff. But what you don't want to do is not be on the same page or not be in sync. And they have the type of players where you see that how they're putting it together right now. They can beat anybody. I don't think there's any team that's like head and shoulders above them. Yeah, I think I would favor Denver or a couple other teams in a 7-game series right at this moment, but that has to be proven. Beating a healthy Clippers team 4 times out of 7 has not really been proven yet. Not in this Kawhi Leonard and Paul George era, at least. But once again, we have to see what they do in the postseason, how they're prepared, and how whole they are as well. But I love this team. I love the fact that they do have a lot of defenders on the roster, a lot of guys who play both ways and who are just energetic in the right spots. Like obviously, like I said, you have Westbrook and Powell igniting the bench lineup. You have Terrence Mann with the starters, which I think is a great move by Ty Lue, keeping him engaged, because off the bench, a lot of times when he's playing with Norman Powell, like, you kind of get lost in the shuffle because Powell's looking for a shot. Yeah, you can have him be more of that defensive stopper in the starting five because they definitely don't need any extra scorers there. So Zubac's somebody who can obviously make these short hooks in the lane. He can finish by keeping it high on lob catches and whatnot. So Harden's doing a good job of finding him for the easy scores and keeping him engaged. And, down the stretch of some of these close games this year, he's been on the floor. He hasn't been somebody who has had to be taken out because, the game's too fast and whatnot. Like, the Clippers definitely can go that way, but if they go small ball, it's not like they have like a real bruiser or small ball type of guy, because right now, if PJ Tucker's out of the rotation, that's where you think he might be used situationally down the line if they keep him on the team, because he's somebody who allows you to play super small, but you can maintain the rest of that offensive firepower in the lineup. So, yeah, I think it's a good thing that Kawhi and James Harden specifically on the same page offensively right now. And I love the way that's flowing because, Harden, when he goes his ISO modes, like it's tough to stop, and it's really fun to watch. I think he's getting that love and creativity for the game again. And it's weird because I thought he had that in Philly a little bit last year, but you just kind of get the sense that he still just wasn't in the situation. And I wouldn't say he checked out or anything like that, but that just wasn't the situation that he wanted. He's playing with, Westbrook again. He's playing with Kawhi and Paul George, guys who are a little bit more laid back, but guys who, outside of Kawhi, haven't won yet, like him. So I think he's motivated by that, but he's not going to say it because Harden's in action mode right now. He's not going to be out there talking and, kind of saying that he wants to win this and that, just saying that he wants to win basketball games. Like, obviously knows what he means by that. He wants to win a title. And I think Harden is really set on winning a title because he's no fool. He knows what's happened in the last couple of situations. Obviously Philly wasn't really viewed as a title team last year, but Brooklyn wasn't that far off, for being honest. They kind of imploded for other reasons, but Brooklyn was not far off. And then obviously the early days with the OKC Thunder, getting to the finals and then not having been back there yet, that's a huge motivating factor. Same with Paul George, who hasn't been there yet. Kawhi Leonard wants to prove it with yet another franchise, especially with LA and the significance, him being from IE area. So, Russell Westbrook deserves a ton of praise, obviously, for volunteering to come off the bench and just realizing the value of the team and realizing what that can do to you, because, he went through that with the Lakers last year. So he knew, obviously, the effect that could have on the psyche, obviously the fans being on you, but then above anything else, they were losing. So they had to do something, to try and mix and match stuff, because once you start losing, and especially a market like LA with the Lakers, people start calling for jobs. They start calling for this or that. Russell Westbrook had the foresight to say, okay, I'm going to go on the bench. I know my value for this team. I know how to play with these guys, more importantly. And then I know how I can spark the second unit specifically, and that is to keep up a high pace, a pace that the first unit is starting to duplicate a little bit more because, yeah, they do have guys who can get out and run, but they have guys who can just kill you on offense, just going right at you. Paul George, Kawhi, and James Harden. These are including Westbrook. They have a team with 4 future Hall of Famers, no doubt. So the talent is there. It's not like any of these guys are past the point where they can't help you at an extremely high level. So I love the way they're playing right now. I think that's a team that, you just got to watch out for the entire year. Like I said, once they get Mason Plumlee back, they might even start incorporating Bones Highland in for some spot minutes and spot scoring. They're just a dangerous team to kind of deal with down the stretch of the year. And I'm excited to see where the Clippers go because hopefully this is the year they are healthy, because if they're healthy, the West is open. Denver's still a favorite, but I think the West is open for a new team to come up there. They're going to have some competition with teams like Dallas, OKC, Minnesota, a lot of teams that have just made more of a jump this year. The Warriors are playing a little bit better recently. The Lakers. There's a few teams that want to be in that conversation, but I think LA has the talent to do so. They just have to stay healthy. That's the main thing. It's almost like you don't even really want to discuss their regular season too much until you're around March or April, because if they're not healthy, then it doesn't matter. We see this before with the Clippers where they're the most spectacular team in the league, or they win 55 games plus, and come playoff time, for whatever reason, somebody's hurt. So hopefully that doesn't happen this year. I want to see the Clippers compete for a title. I want to see them compete at the highest level because, honestly, the fan base, like I said, they haven't been jaded, but they've been waiting because it's been the same thing over and over and over. So I don't want them to. They don't want to see any fan base go through that anymore, especially because of injury. If you don't work out, that's fine. You have to make personnel changes, this or that. But the what ifs because you were hurt, that's the toughest one to swallow. Paul George is the one who's kind of viewed as an X factor. You would never call him an X factor or disrespect him that way, but now it's like if Paul George, and he's reliable, he shows up. So Paul George plays well, it's like these guys are gonna beat most teams. They are extremely talented, and the moment that you stop paying attention to Paul George, with the way that James Harden's playing right now, it's gonna kill you. And he's gotten more confidence. He's getting more confidence. He's getting his confidence back by the game. He's starting to go to the basket more. He's starting to get to the line a little bit more. He's shooting his 3. Like I said, he's just way more engaged. He's way more in a rhythm. And he's feeding off of playing with his talented teammates like he did in the OKC days. That's what I'm noticing. He's feeding off playing with them, because I think once he ascended to being great, it was kind of like, this is revolved around me. And he said it was kind of trying to temper expectations when he said this a couple of weeks ago, but he said that he's never going to be the same player anymore. But I don't think that's true, because the way that he is adapting his game to have lesser responsibility in a way, but still be dominant in stretches or when you need to, or having that takeover ability still, is just important. Most players don't have one guy. Now they have 3. You know what I mean? So that's tough to deal with. Paul George shows up and plays at a high level, all-star level, that he normally always does. Clippers are going to be so tough because you can save him a little bit more on offense if Harden has it going or Kawhi has it going, and he can focus even more on a tough defensive matchup. There's so many ways to conserve his energy, but then also keep him engaged and playing at the highest level, because he's somebody who came in as known as Mr. Intangibles, in a way where he got on the floor at the Pacers early on. He's said this a million times because of his defense. I remember vividly those playoff series they played the Bulls, and he was the primary guy who defended D Rose. So Paul George can kind of get back to some of that stuff and stretch it. So say he's not getting the ball for a few times down the court. He's never anybody to complain anyway, but he can still help his teammates out by either drawing attention elsewhere, spotting up, make the extra pass. He can defend. Now you have somebody. That's how you see Russell Westbrook in a way off the bench. He's doing a little bit of everything because he's not asked to do everything anymore. And Paul George can still handle doing everything. So it's like the fact that they have those types of players in the roster is such a luxury. They're my team to watch in the West, I think, the entire year, because the only way is up for them. I don't really see them teetering off and then, after this winning streak, just kind of being okay. If they're healthy, name 5 teams better than them in the entire NBA, first off. Especially top to bottom with their lineup, with the rotation guys. They're guys they can go 8 deep with. There's not too many teams better than the LA Clippers on paper. The fact that they're producing is it's such a good sign early on. All right, the next segment, gotta switch gears and talk about a young player. Keegan Murray is up now.
Yo. You got the juice now, man.
Now, you might be saying, why is Keegan Murray being somebody that's featured on this show? Because he's just already been consistent. He averaged 12 as a rookie last year. He played 80 games last year, started 78. From day one when the Kings drafted him, he was viewed as somebody that, not to say they would build around, but as the third leg of their big three with Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, Keegan Murray has been viewed as that, but he's taken the next step into actually becoming that type of player this year. His scoring average, although he's playing around the same minutes per game, has jumped almost 4 points per game. He's averaging 16. He had a 47-point game the other day. He hit 12 threes, 12 for 13 from three at that. Keegan Murray's scoring average is probably going to keep going up as well. He's at 16 points per game right now, but I envision him being a legit 20-point scorer in a couple of years. And Sacramento's offense is so potent that could actually happen with him in the same framework playing alongside Fox and Sabonis. But his aggression has been something that's been really important to watch this year, because even though, like I said, that his three-point numbers are down, he's still being more aggressive with the shot. He's shooting 13 shots a game this year, and he's really looking to score. Man, I love the chant they do for him at Golden One Center. If you haven't heard it, check it out.
Keegan Murray once again. Three for three for Keegan Murray.
Added that to 2K, which is pretty dope. Murray's somebody who is a fan favorite in Sacramento. He's pretty unassuming as a player. He's not really the most outspoken personality, but it doesn't matter. He's somebody who lets his play do the talking for him on the court. And he's a confident player. He's a confident player, and I think that came from dominating in college. And some people thought that his scoring wouldn't translate to the league as well. Maybe he'd just be delegated to sniper status or somebody who just has to spot up and shoot threes early on. But I love the fact that he's been really aggressive looking for his shot and using his size to his advantage. That's something that you don't really see from a lot of guys who profile as shooters, but Murray's got a good build at 6'8", 225. He's not afraid to get into the lane. He's a fun, high-volume guy. It sucks that his efficiency has dipped a little bit this year from downtown, but he's somebody who you look up. Keegan Murray has 5 threes, 6 threes, 7 threes. Like I said, he had 12 for 13 the other day at 47 points. That's what you want to see. If you're a Kings fan, that's what you really want to see. And he's a sophomore who's making those next steps. He's obviously going to play in the Rising Stars game again, just continuing to build his confidence. And there's been a lot of good sophomores this year, a lot of guys who were rookies last year who, are taking that next level, the next step in their game. And next year, you're going to want to see him go from 16 to 18 or even 20. And he has that capability because he's started to get more comfortable as that primary scorer from the perimeter. And, Sabonis and Fox are so good at what they do as playmakers. Sabonis can, set up after screens and find you on cuts. He can even handle the ball a bit and then, find you sometimes in transition. Doesn't happen that often, but he's really looking for his teammates and finding them based on movement or spotting up, or, if he commands any attention coming out of the post. De'Aaron Fox, he's super quick. Obviously, he's trying to get into the lane and make things happen off of driving kicks, penetration. He's done a really good job finding Keegan a lot from downtown. That's a pretty good connection that's established. Same with Sabonis as a role man, being able to find Keegan Murray. And I love the way that Murray's just capitalizing and being that third reliable guy, because the Kings, they're such a potent offense because they start 5 double-digit scorers. But the fact that there's a hierarchy within the scorers, obviously you have the 2 stars, but number 3 is clearly Murray. Last year it was Murray and Harrison Barnes, for instance. And then Kevin Huerter would be not too far behind them. And obviously Malik Monk off the bench, another guy, averaged 13, 15 points a game. But Murray is clearly number 3 behind Sabonis and Fox now. And Fox is a 30-point scorer this year. Sabonis is, I think, around 19 or so. Murray at 16, then, having trickling down from there. that's such a potent offense to try and stop on a nightly basis. And Murray's got a game that I think can continue to improve. I would like to see him get a little bit more impressive in the mid-range area, just a little bit more aggressive hunting shots in the mid-range area. I think he has a lot to exploit there because of his size and because of the fact that he can, shoot so well from downtown. He can just hit more just faders and leaners. You see his brother Chris Murray in Iowa last year, now with the Blazers. What he likes to do is set up a little bit from the inside and get a couple inside shots to get going. Back in the day, the old adage would be like you want to warm up from the inside and then start to get your rhythm and go out. But Keegan Murray, because he's such a true shooter, he doesn't need to do that. Now, I do want to see him get to the free throw line a little bit more. I do want to see him raise his assist numbers. He only averages a couple assists per game. And make that extra pass or, just be willing to turn down the shot, drive, and then find somebody, usually that big that's in the lane, or, maybe even go opposite side for another shooter, somebody spotting up in the corner. I think there's a lot of ways for him to even continue to improve his game. His scoring upside is super high in that system. I think it'd be super high in any system, but the fact that, you already have two guys to play off of that have contributed and played at super high levels in the NBA already, you can just stand there and spot up and be effective. And last year, effectively, that's what he did. He set the rookie record for threes last year. And he wasn't just a spot-up guy, but he didn't have to do too much outside of that. There would be games where you would see Keegan Murray go like 4 for 8 from the field and 7 of those attempts from downtown. But now he's mixing up a little bit more, and he's shooting 13 shots a game this year, but 7 of them are coming from deep. That's 6'8", and with the purity of a shooter he is, he's going to be able to kill people. He kind of reminds me in a way of Michael Porter Jr.'s production in Denver. Porter Jr. is a prolific shooter. Keegan Murray is kind of similar in a way, but he has a different cadence. He's a little bit, I would say, slightly slower, or in his approach, he's a little bit more patient in how he's looking for his shots. But Murray doesn't really jack up a lot, but he can get hot because his release is kind of suitable for you to have like a ton of volume. And his efficiency, he gets hot, kind of similar to a couple of guys I profiled on the show already. Once he gets hot, similar to, like I said, Kobe White, Tyrese Maxey, guys like that. This guy can really put up huge three-point numbers. That 12-3 game is not going to be the only huge three-point game we're going to see even this season from Keegan Murray. He's going to have another couple games like that. I don't know if he's going to hit 12 or 13, but I think I'm going to make a prediction right now that Keegan Murray will have at least 2 more games with double-digit threes this season. I think he's that great of a shooter, and the Kings are going to really keep looking for him. They're tough to stop. And they're so in tune with each other. There's so much. They have great chemistry there. And look, I don't know how far Sacramento can go this year. I think there's a lot of teams that have a favor over them in the West right now, but they're going to become a scarier team if Murray continues to play at this level, because you have a third guy like that who can put up star numbers. He doesn't even need to have the star distinction by his name yet, but Murray can go off for 25 points or hit 6 threes in a game and, just hit timely buckets. That's tough because you still have to worry about all the rest of the role players like Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, Malik Monk, Trey Lyles. There's a lot of guys who can contribute offensively. Even have the rookie Sasha Vezenkov, who's come in and played some decent utility minutes as a scorer, helped them win a game against the Warriors earlier this year. They've got a lot of guys who can get hot offensively, but Murray leads that charge and is more consistent than not, and is more reliable as a 18 to 20 point guy versus a 12 to 15. That doesn't seem like a huge jump, but that's a huge difference in the NBA. You having that reputation of somebody who scores in this range and then you're consistently outperforming that expectation. You're in a different bracket then. You're in a more of a star territory at that point. So I think the Kings would be wise to hold on to Murray. And I love this big three that's formed between De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, and Keegan Murray. I think that's a big three you can build around. They need to get some more defenders around them and get some more guys who, can really lock up and do more of the intangibles. But no, I think Murray is such a great fit, and he's a player that I really want to see what he does the rest of the season. Keegan Murray.
You got the juice now, man.
Got to the Keegan Murray chant one time. Definitely somebody who you guys got to keep an eye out on for the rest of the season. I think Sacramento can make some moves if Murray continues to, just develop as a player in terms of confidence. He's already got the skill that's there. The Kings already have chemistry, but Murray's shooter's confidence and just confidence overall as a scorer, I think that's going to help the Kings go pretty far this year. That's a wrap on the third episode of Who Got the Juice Now. Appreciate you guys checking in with me. Let's talk about the Clippers and how that's a team to definitely watch towards the end of the season. They're on an 8-game winning streak currently and just firing on all cylinders with James Harden and look like a completely different team than when they first acquired him. Things are really starting to look up. And for Keegan Murray, the Sacramento Kings, he's a player who he made that sophomore leap already. He's went from 12 points a game to 16 points per game. He is putting in the framework for becoming an actual all-star in the NBA. I think offensively, he's basically got it all. Skill-wise, I don't think there's too many young players, especially second-year players, who can match his level of skill offensively. So really want to see what Murray and the Kings do down the stretch of the year as well. But as always, stay tuned to Delay of Game Hoops for more content. We've got some highlight videos coming. Probably going to drop a mix of Keegan Murray, Kobe White over the next couple of weeks. So definitely stay tuned for that. But until then, happy holidays, happy New Year if I don't see you between then. And just keep it locked. Delay of Game Hoops.